Hey everybody, Jay Schlansky here from the Fifth Trooper Network. I just want to take a moment to thank you for checking out this show. Did you know that over at thefifthtrooper.com we have tons of other content, including blogs, other podcasts, all kinds of stuff. In addition, if you want access to exclusive content, you can join us on patreon.com/thefifthtrooper and join at any level and you'll get access to exclusive blog articles, access to our private Discord, and much more. So please check us out, and thank you so much for all your support.
Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Mike.
Hey.
Your green light is noticeably less OSL today. Probably because you have other lights on.
I think it's that. Yeah. Which is great.
Not channeling the Jedi Luke.
Nah,
today.
I'm not quite feeling it, But yeah, definitely geared up. I'm not gonna mention what day it is.
It is a day on which we were recording.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's been kind of a slow news month. So I mean, we had a release obviously, but we've endlessly talked about the two things that are releasing, which is Sleeper Cell and Riot Troopers. So
I mean, they did release like another half completed game mode today for a different game line.
For Shatterpoint, yeah. The Word document.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not a Shatterpoint podcast, so I'll hold my thoughts on that. Anyway.
I just want something done. I would like it finished, completed, that I would like to give you my money for it.
Yeah, shut up and take my money. But anyway, we are going to do more tier listing today because people seem to have really liked that. And in an absence of other stuff to talk about, it's a great thing to talk about. And it's a great way to generate discussion about units. So
yeah,
this is actually going to be part 1 of 2 because probably unless somehow we're blazing through these. But we are doing the commander rank today, which I think it's safe to say is easily the rank with the most units in it in Legion. And I don't think it's particularly close.
No, no, there's
no
way.
Which makes sense, right? Because that's kind of how you really differentiate your lists from each other. One of the major ways is your commander. So there's lots of them. There's lots of interesting characters in Star Wars. So there's lots of interesting commanders in Star Wars. We are not going to re-rank the Force users that are also commanders in this episode. So you can see if you're watching on YouTube, we already have Anakin, Vader, Yoda, Dooku, Kenobi, Palpatine, and Luke.
We have omitted the Force users that are operatives.
Yes. We have them kind of already pre-ranked on here. If you want to see our discussion about why we ranked them there, you can refer back to 2 or 3 episodes ago.
3 episodes
ago, where we did the Force user ranking. So please go back and listen to that or watch it if you haven't done that already. But yeah, they're just gonna already be up here pre-populated on this ranking thing. So if you're wondering why we're doing a commander episode and we're not talking about the Force users, it's because we already did. So and there's so many commanders to go through. Removing 7 of them from the list brings it down to like what, 28?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's
a lot.
I guess there's 8 in each row, so it's pretty close to their 36 remaining. It's like 35. Or something like that.
It's 30. It's 30.
And we've also omitted any commanders that aren't technically commanders unless you like take an upgrade or something. So anybody that's like field commander, like Darksaber Maul, we're kind of omitting from this list as they're not actually commanders.
Right. So we're probably going to do the Civil War era ones this episode and then stop, depending on how far we are. Again, if somehow we're really crushing this, then we'll keep going. But I think that this will probably be the Civil War era, Empire and Republic commander rankings cast, and then next week we'll do Clone Wars. So, all right. Without
Yeah,
further ado, how about we just jump right into this?
totally. So we've got Empire up first. Moff Gideon, who has not really changed a ton. I'm just gonna open up Tabletop Adam real quick, so that we can
I mean,
look
his
at
card is the
command
same.
cards. Command cards specifically.
Yeah, his command cards are also the same.
Yes, although Moment of Consideration changed a little bit.
Oh yeah,
because it was obviously
yeah.
It was obviously Fire Sport before, and Fire Sport works a little differently. I guess they could have said all of the unit. I don't know. The units on this card gained Fire Sport. It would have had the same general effect.
Right, because Fire Sport gives you a standby token when you get
Yeah.
issued an order.
Yeah, I don't know,
but
I do think this is cleaner from
it
just
is cleaner. Yeah.
like a let's make this as simple as possible perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the same effect. Well, it's not the same effect because of how they changed fire support, but
correct.
it's consistent with what fire support does now,
Yes.
basically. Yeah.
That is the primary thing that has changed about Gideon. I think. In addition to, I mean, Gideon's obviously got Entourage Imperial Dark Troopers, and his 2-pip You Have Something I Want is pretty centered around it. And Dark Troopers are kind of really not great right now.
Yeah. I want to explore them a little bit more because Dark Troopers thing has always historically been, you want to just force your opponent to fight over a central area, and that's literally what the game is now.
Sure.
But
yeah,
lots of things working against them. They're super slow. The armor change was really bad for them, especially since they can't get cover. So what are they now? Armor 3?
They're Armor 3 now, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
it's
I don't
I
know.
mean, it's better than Armor 0, obviously, but it's not, Armor 5 is the new full armor basically, and it's significantly worse than that. So they still have all the drawbacks of being a trooper unit that is also a heavy, but they don't get the same full armor treatment as the other heavies. And the fact that, they were a trooper previously, with the way objectives worked in Legacy Legion, was like a big asset because troopers could basically do everything. And there were some in particular, like Recover, etc., that Dark Troopers were really good at. And now they're just the same as every other heavy vehicle, except they're slower and they have Armor 3 instead of Armor 5. So
I will say that I do think that if you're on the Dark Trooper train, I do think you kind of have to take Gideon. I do think his 2-pip is very good if you're taking Dark Troopers.
yeah.
I just am not convinced that Dark Troopers are like the way to go. And if Dark Troopers aren't the way to go, I'm not sure you're taking Gideon at this point.
Right.
Outside of maybe the Remnant Battle Force, because you have so many points in it. But I think if you're playing Remnant now, you kind of have to take Dark Troopers because at 1,000 points, there's not enough stuff.
Yeah, you cannot get to 1,000 points unless you're taking like a ridiculous amount of pointless upgrades.
Sure, you're like taking a 200-point bid or something stupid.
Right? Yeah, yeah. You run out of org chart if you're not taking Dark Troopers now in Remnant. So
yeah,
but his value's always been super tied to Dark Troopers. So
yeah, and I think the 2-pip specifically, the teleportation ability on that has gotten a lot better with how wide the boards are.
Yeah. Being able to reposition a unit in a situation, there are some objectives where you're essentially fighting on like 2 separate 3x3s, and being able to reposition a high impact unit like a Dark Trooper from one of those to the other is pretty significant.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wish they were Armor 5, or they were cheaper.
Yeah. I also think, there's probably some play to Gideon's, like, ruthless keyword with the ability to kind of like take some bigger squads to like soak the wounds that you're taking from ruthless and do some like weird stuff. I don't think it's very good. I do think that Gideon is a hero that you can be very creative um with with his command hand and stuff, but uh he's still, I'm just gonna look at the points real quick
He's
here
he's
because it's
100.
different. Yeah. Yeah, he's 100 still. For 100 points, like without the dark saber, it's he's pretty pricey.
It's a lot for a support commander who has, doesn't give out any tokens and doesn't have exemplar like every other support commander does.
Yeah, he's like a
So
weird support commander in the way that like I don't know, he's closer to like a Rex than
yes,
who is also a support commander but doesn't really do supporty stuff.
except you can share Rex's tokens to your other units.
Sure, sure. That's fair. Maybe that was a bad example.
Anyway, the point is, yeah, Gideon, he has some interesting things going on, but he's very much tied to the value of Dark Troopers, and if Dark Troopers aren't great, then Gideon's not great.
Yeah,
So
I think Gideon's like a solid C.
yeah, that's fair. I'd put him below Luke probably.
Yeah, I agree there. I definitely think New Luke is probably better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We've got the Imperial Officer. I'm just gonna clocking in at 55 points now.
Yep.
New unit card, Spotter 1, Exemplar, which is really the big I think that's the main thing that changed here.
Exemplar is amazing.
Yeah. No, it's on a 55-point unit. Oh, buddy. I'm not really sure what else there is to say. Outside of like this is, I think with the amount of points that you have to spend now, I I don't think this is like your primary commander. This is generally speaking, unless
Right.
your character is operative based. But I think before we lived in a world where it was a little bit more reasonable to only take one commander. But at the 1,000-point cap and how wide boards are, in that you need extra courage bubbles to kind of cover some ground. I think this is like, I almost want to give it 2 rankings because like as a primary commander, I don't think it's very good, but as like the second commander you take, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's a little awkward because I feel like we should rank Krennic next year because Krennic is 10 more points. He has essentially all the same abilities except for Inspire 1, but he also has Compel, Cunning, and a hand of great command cards. Or well, a hand of above average command cards. Let's say
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Um,
I don't know about great, but
yeah. So yeah, an exemplar unit for 55 points is amazing, and I would totally rank this as like an A tier unit. I struggle to see a situation in which I'm actually running it because I would just find the extra 10 points for Krennic, and then my other commander is going to be Vader or something.
yeah, no, I agree. I actually think that because the other named exemplar heroes are going to be higher on this list, I actually don't think that we can put this in A tier. I think it's got to come down a little bit because it's just like,
You got to use, right. I mean, I guess that's kind of my point, is if you're looking at the context of the faction, I really struggle to see a situation in which I'm taking the officer over Krennic.
yeah, 10 points is like nothing in this edition.
Right.
It's like you're if yeah, you're gonna find the 10 points to upgrade to Krennic because Compel is so good.
Yeah, and his stats are way better. And you're probably using at least one of his command cards.
Yeah, I think the only way in that context, I do think the only time you're taking an officer is like Krennic or Veers is like your primary hero, and like the officer is your second.
Yeah.
Right. And even then, you probably just like upgrade into Veers or Krennic.
Right.
But
So yeah,
So
I'd say B simply because I
yeah,
struggle to rank a unit that is so cheap with exemplar lower than that. But
I agree. I agree. It's definitely like you can't go wrong with this unit, but there are better things you should do.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna skip General Veers and Krennic up to the front here. You
Yeah.
mentioned Krennic first, so um yeah, new unit card for Krennic. Though did anything I guess Exemplar is the thing that changed. And
His blaster got a dice upgrade too. Although it
yes,
no
lost
longer has
sharpshooter
Pierce and he
and
lost
Pierce.
sharpshooter.
But three
That's
red is like way better than what his gun was, anyways.
It was a rainbow. I think you could argue the loss of Pierce is probably a wash if you're
Yeah,
upgrading two of those dice to red. I don't know.
yeah.
Um,
You're like clocking at least an extra hit on average.
yeah, I'd probably still rather have the Pierce, but it's a side grade.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. He's really good. I'd definitely put him in A tier. I think he's my go-to second Empire commander personally.
That's fair. I definitely think. Yeah, and I think you can also sort of ignore the entourage Imperial Death Troopers on his unit card now.
Yeah, it's
You can, I
whatever.
mean, like you definitely like play around with it if you want to, but I don't think Death Troopers are very good. I think we talked about that either last week or the week before. Um,
But I think more to the point, previously, if you were taking Krennic, you kind of wanted to have a plan for how you were going to use Death Troopers.
yeah,
But now with his cost, it's like a free keyword, basically.
totally. It's a free roll. That keyword could not be there, and you're totally fine paying the amount of points you're getting for the package you're getting.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. A tier. Are we putting him? We're putting him in relevance to Yoda and Dooku.
That is a good question.
I
I
think
would,
he's probably better than both.
yeah, I'd definitely put him above Dooku. And I mean, you're the Yoda expert, so if you say that he is above Yoda, then I'll defer to you on that.
Yeah, and yeah, he's enough better than Yoda that I'm considering that maybe we need to move him to S tier.
That's fair. I mean,
But
if he's your like, if we're saying two things that are true, one, that because of the 1,000 points, you're always going to have a secondary commander in Empire list, and two, he's the best secondary Empire commander. That essentially means that Krennic is going to be in every Empire list, and if that's the
yeah,
case, then he deserves to be in S tier.
I'm not. So here's the thing: like these A tier units, they're like, at least so far, they're like these are units that you feel pretty good about taking. And the S tier units are just like these are units you feel pretty good about taking, but also win the game on their own.
That's fair.
Um, and I'm not sure like these units can do a lot of that lift, but like Yoda can't win a game on his own without help.
If that's our criteria for S tier, then yeah, we definitely can't put Krennic there.
I'm just like when I look at S tier and I look at A tier,
Yeah.
like that's like kind of the difference in those two units that I'm seeing. Um, I don't know. It was a month ago when we ranked these, so
Yeah, I think that's more of a fair comment for a force user. I think if we're talking about commanders, which include,
Mm,
potentially a bunch of support commanders,
that's fair. That's fair.
you can include just raw efficiency as a criteria here.
Okay,
So,
I'm willing to put him in low S tier then. Because
okay.
I do think he's significantly better than these two.
Okay.
Um, General Veers, got the reboot. Similar Krennic deal with the gun, except he's range three red dice, which is really good, and still has sharpshooter. He can action guidance ground vehicle.
Yeah, I mean that's if you're taking Veers, that's the reason, right?
Yeah, I mean he's I mean just giving him that ability alone makes him the like dedicated vehicle hero that support hero that we kind of always wanted him to be, I
Yeah.
think. Unfortunately, speeder bikes got a lot worse.
Yeah.
Um,
And notably, this only works on ground vehicles, so it does not work on speeder bikes.
oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're right. Um,
I mean, this is for ATSTs and tanks.
yes.
So if you're taking either of those, I think you want Veers as your support commander.
Yeah, for sure. If you're taking armor, you definitely take Bears. Um, instead of Krennic.
Yeah. Now, sadly, you cannot take him in Tempest, which is like the best way to run ATSTs. So, I mean, I guess you're talking about Blizzard, but then you got to rely on speeder bikes. I don't know. I've been trying to build like Empire vehicle lists, and I always end up feeling like it's a little bit awkward still.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I think it's one of those. I think that's more of an Empire generally problem. They're still kind of like they feel like hodgepodge lists that are kind of like stitched together, and they don't like generally have a ton of synergy. Um, and I feel like the ground vehicle stuff is like this is a big bonus to it, obviously, but I'm not sure. Like all the synergy is kind of like in different places, and you can't stitch it together.
yeah. Yeah, like
Uh,
if you could take him in Tempest, I would say I would be all about it. But personally, I think we got to rank him like B, just
sure.
because you can't do that.
Yeah, I'm cool with B. Um, I think probably better than Kenobi and Palpatine.
Yeah,
Um, cool. Iden Versio, who nothing has changed about, I don't think. Obviously, like covert ops has and infiltrate have changed. I guess covert ops hasn't really changed, but infiltrate has changed
infiltrate.
substantially.
Yeah,
Um, so I think her sniper is really, really bad now. Like,
it's hot
like,
garbage.
like
Yeah,
really bad.
yeah, which was previously a big reason to take her.
It was her command card. I mean, Tax Strike is also still real good though in the new edition. Like if you're taking Iden, you're taking her because of Tax Strike, not because she's good.
Yes, you're making a tax strike list if you're taking Iden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
which I haven't personally tried that in the new edition. It seems like it should be good because of how good Infiltrate is now, but it also seems like you're still just trying to kind of do a clone commando impression without the rest of your list being clones.
yeah, yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I think as a commander, she's not very good. I think it's that one command card. Um, maybe she's like S tier for a turn, and then the rest of the game, you wish you had somebody else. Um,
Yeah, and 100 points is a lot to ask for
and she's
that.
not even really 100 points. Like she's definitely at least the repeater is 115, right? Like brings her to 115, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And like once you're at 115, you kind of want to take Dio. So now she's 130, and now we're talking like, man, for another 30 points, I could just like have a Vader sort of like hanging around. Is it 30 or I don't know. It's I see 190 now.
he's 170.
170. So for another 40 points. I don't know. It's just like she's in that I feel very similarly about her and Grievous.
Yeah, it's a really awkward price point. It's like more expensive than all the other support commanders, not quite expensive enough to be a high impact piece like a force user, but not so much cheaper than a force user that you're like, yeah, I feel good about this.
Yeah, and like like not just like lower impact than a force user, but also just like they don't kill stuff. Like
Yeah,
I
right.
don't, like I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I,
want to say C tier for Ivan.
I agree. I'd put
Um,
her above Gideon because they're both kind of like relying on specific strategies, and I think Tac Strike is better than Dark Troopers as far as
Yeah, I
relying on a
think
gimmick.
Tac Strike pumps are up above Commander Luke too.
Yeah,
Frankly,
that's
Commander Luke's got no, I don't know, not much going on.
pizzazz.
Yeah, there's no spice there.
Yeah.
Uh, Speaking of spice and everything nice, how about Agent Callus?
Agent Callus, I feel like, was designed for a game where
That's a great start. Let's keep going.
where you want a bunch of different command cards for specific niche situations rather than
Yes.
just a handful of splashy command cards. Uh and yeah, we're just not playing that game anymore. So I don't know. If there's one thing to be said for him, it's that with the new cover rules, his gun is pretty legit. The I don't even remember
The
what it's called.
the
The bow rifle.
yes, the J19 bow rifle.
Yeah, I mean it's still it 5 points, so that puts him at 90. It's red, black, black, white, and he has lethal on it
And he's got
with
tacticals.
tactical. So most of the time you're picking up one, if not like 2 units.
Two
Sometimes more if you
models.
get lucky. Two, sorry, yeah, 2 models.
Those are
Yeah.
significantly different things.
You're right. Those are very significantly different. Cal's just like picking up whole units with every shot.
We gave him gunslinger, boys.
Yeah. Gunslinger, 8 dice,
Yeah,
Pierce 3.
he just firing lightsabers out of his bow rifle.
Right, yeah. And spinning lightsabers. Yeah, no. I mean, it's pretty good. He's got one of the better ranged attacks for a support commander. I'm just not sure what else he does. Because like contingencies is yeah.
The only place that I feel like contingencies is almost mandatory is that if you still want to do like the I'm taking a bunch of bounty hunters thing. And the thing about it is that like their kits are so isolated and most of their command cards are like you do have to be in the right place at the right time, and sometimes you're gonna want some flexibility there. I I think that's like basically what I'm trying to say is if you don't want contingencies too, I don't think you want counts.
Yeah, definitely. That's what you're taking him for.
Yeah.
And I think the value of that particular keyword, since the value of non like ridiculously splashy command cards has gone down. But
Well,
basically,
I'll note though, ISB investigation is one of basically what I'll say like 2 to 4 ways of actually dealing with someone else's splashy command card.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's up there with change of plans as
Yeah,
far as like that thing that you thought you were going to get to do that's you were really excited about. You actually, sorry, can't do that.
yeah, I'd put like Dooku's 2-pip, Palpatine's 2-pip, change of plans, and ISB investigation, I think, kind of like in that
Yeah,
bucket.
I think the difference is, well, ISB investigation is great. If you compare him to someone like Han, who has change of plans, Han is a better unit.
Oh, absolutely.
Just as far as his unit card is concerned, and Han's command hand overall is better. It's not just change of plans. Like Reckless Diversion is also great,
Yep.
and Sorry About the Mess is also great. So
Callus's other command cards, generally, if you take them, you're not even like putting them in your contingencies or any like they just are not there.
No. Yeah, the 3-pip is like a token example of when we talk about like setup cards or cards that are like pretty good but not splashy. In the
Yes.
previous edition, it'd be like, all right, I'm gonna have a, you know, 20% better turn of shooting this turn or whatever.
I need some orders. I need a 3-pip that's
I
in
need
and out some
I need some
stuff.
orders and I need a
Yep.
little, this is probably going to be an engagement turn, so I need a little bit of a leg up in what's going to be this range 3 shoot fest that we're about to have. That's just not good enough anymore.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it might as well be assault, right? Like,
right,
and
yeah,
assaults, generally speaking, not good enough unless you're like not running heroes.
yes,
Yeah, so,
yeah. I'd put him in C personally.
yeah, I think he probably is worse than Iden, but better than Luke.
Yeah, I'd agree to that. And this is we're specifically talking about the context of taking him with like bounty hunters.
Yeah, I definitely think that you have to have a reason for the contingencies.
Yeah,
If you're not using the contingencies, he's way down.
he's like F tier if you're not
Yeah.
using contingencies. Yeah,
I really hope Callus gets a rework. I think
yeah, and
he
he's still got
sorely
to.
needs it.
I think he will because he still has flawed on his unit card, and it seems like they kind of just got rid of that. At least with Anakin, they just kind of deleted it.
I
So
mean, I think they should delete flawed. Flawed is not a fun mechanic. It is not a, I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah. It's just,
sure. The point is, it's still there, and it seems like based on what they did to Anakin, at least it shouldn't be. So
sure.
I would expect some kind of callous rework.
Um, yeah. Moving into Rebels. C3PO, Master Storyteller. What is oh, it's like some golden god.
Sorry. So to recap, Empire, it's basically
Oh,
like
yes.
the Vader Krennic show, I think, right?
Yeah, and I think Competitive Legion has borne that out.
Yeah,
That's basically all that's all the Imperial the good Imperialists right now are running Vader and Krennic. Um Everybody else is kind of trying, I guess. I don't know.
yeah. All right, yeah. Let's hit Rebels.
Sweet. C3PO is a commander in Bright Tree Village only. Um I'm gonna be honest, I haven't fought against Bright Tree Village in the new edition yet.
I have not
Um
either.
so I'm not entirely this is me kind of I don't know. I'm not sure. I think the cover changes hurt Ewoks.
Yes, although they do have low profile, so they're it's a nice little consolation prize. But
Sure.
yes,
I guess.
they're
Uh,
definitely squishier than they were, and they were already pretty squishy. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, in the context of Bright Tree, I do think you have to take 3PO. Like, if you don't take 3PO, I think your list doesn't work.
yeah,
Um,
I feel the same about him and Logray in that respect.
yeah. Does that make him good? I don't know.
In the context of Brighttree, he does all the things that you need him to do for a extremely reasonable cost.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think you got to put him at least B. I mean, maybe this is kind of like a Gideon situation where if you're doing the thing that he's designed to be doing, he's really good, but we're not super clear on if that thing is actually good.
Yeah, no, I sort of agree with that. I mean, I think putting him B, like he's definitely, I mean, he's only 40 points, right? Like that's very cheap.
Yes.
In an army that already has extremely cheap units. So I definitely, yeah, he's at least average for sure. I think it's just a question of how far up does he go from there. I do think it is. I don't know if this is. He did get a little bit of a nerf, and the master storyteller can't go to 6 anymore. I
Yeah.
you
Although
know I don't.
when were you ever spending like 6 surge tokens on an Ewok unit?
Well, it's choose up to X friendly units
Oh,
where X
sure.
is the
Yeah.
round
Okay.
number.
That's fair. Yeah.
So it's like you're engaging sooner too. So
On the plus side though, they did fix divine influence so that it's at and not within,
sure, sure.
which is that's a big difference for him.
It is. Um, and I guess in that vein, being able to like just peel everything out of the pool is also a bigger deal too. Because you can Guardian crits with the divine influence.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm comfortable putting him in B just
Yeah,
because if you're taking Bright Tree, you're taking 3PO, and it's not really negotiable, in my opinion.
sure. I agree. Um, Logray. I feel
I,
like the conversation is pretty much the same.
yeah, if you're running Bright Tree, you're taking Logray. Yeah.
Wicket. Man, so I've been running a bunch of Wicket
Yeah, in normal rebel lists, right?
in normal rebel lists. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Scouting party is really good.
Scouting party is really good. Um, honestly, Wicket's Wicket's melee profile with Relentless puts some Jedi to kind of shame for their points cost. Like now that you're like Force Push is 40 points, and all of a sudden we've got like a bunch of like 140-point Jedi that are basically just lightsaber sticks. Um, you know, you want to pay 140 points for like 5 to 6 dice with like Pierce 2, or do you just want to pay 70 for uh you know, Relentless and 3 dice Pierce 1? I don't know.
Yeah, and you
And
can give him tenacity, and then it's 4 dice.
yeah. Um and he's got independent and nimble, which means like always got a dodge token plus low profile. This guy's basically got heavy cover still.
Yeah.
um, I don't know. And honestly, basically, whenever Wicked activates, if he's in range of something, he kills at least one model.
Yep. Yeah, I like him
So
a lot.
yeah,
I, w-
yeah.
I wish the rebel commander slot was, like 3 instead of 2, because I feel like, I want to take Han, I want to take Wicket, and I want to take like a rebel officer for the exemplar nonsense.
Yeah, no,
Um,
totally.
but you obviously you can't. But I think he often makes the cut anyway.
Wicket?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I definitely think I don't think token sharing in Rebels is like enough to bring their core units up to snuff.
No,
So
it's
I
not.
I'm more like whatever, get off that plan. Let's just kill them. And Wicked does that way better than an officer does.
He does, although you can use an officer to share tokens to other things that are not rebel core units, like sleeper cell, like ATRTs, etc.
Sure, I
So
do think the sleeper cell might change that up a little bit.
yeah,
Um, but
Mandos.
yeah. I think I'm willing to put Wicket in A tier. I think Wicket is actually really good.
I
Pro
I can't argue with that.
okay. Definitely not as good as Dooku and Yoda.
No.
But definitely very good. We've got the Rebel Officer again with the exemplar treatment.
Yep.
I feel like we're basically gonna have the same conversation we had with the Imperial Officer, except we're gonna substitute the words Director Krennic with Leia Organa.
Yes. Although, um, it's notable that the points difference between Krennic and the Imperial officer is 10, and the points difference between Leia and the Rebel officer is 25.
That's fair.
So, um,
I do think it's easier to find the points in Rebel lists than any other faction, just because
yes.
they don't really have good things to spend them on, but that's something else entirely.
I'm not sure that's a good problem to have,
I'm
Mike,
not,
but
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying that that's how it should be. I'm just saying that it is very easy to cut 25 points out of a rebel list most of the time.
yeah, I'll just cut this unit I don't want anyway. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I'm with you there. Um, but I think there are probably still more situations in Rebels where you're like, man, I wish I could afford Leia, but I can't, so I'm just going to take this Rebel officer. And then in Empire where you're like, I'm just going to pay the 10 points.
That's fair.
So, yeah, I'd say I'd be comfortable ranking him at like the top of B tier, probably.
Top of B tier.
Yeah.
I don't think he's better than Veers.
Okay, well then, certainly better than the Imperial officer.
Yeah, that's fair. I will say I do think that the Imperial officer has better things to support for sure.
Yeah, you're definitely getting more out of Exemplar with the Imperial officer than you are with the Rebel officer.
Yeah.
Man, it's too bad Rebel Bad Batch is not actually a rebel unit.
Yeah.
For exemplar reasons. That's really super annoying that you can't like exemplar them tokens.
Eh.
Yeah. Anyway,
Um.
I digress.
Yeah. Leia Organa.
I mean, she's great.
I
I
guess
don't know.
I guess maybe what I was trying to say before is maybe the Krennic conversation is kind of like the Leia conversation, and that I feel like most rebel lists just start with Leia at this point. She's just really good.
She is, although I think there's more competition on the Rebel roster for that slot than there is in Empire for like Krennic's role. Simply because you have Han specifically.
Ooh, this is I think we're gonna fight. I'm ready
Okay.
for this.
All right.
I mean, I I'm willing to put Leia in S tier, and that is not where I'm gonna put Han Solo.
This might be the first ranking that we like fundamentally disagree on.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, Leia's great. But the thing that she's great at is the thing that we just talked about. Rebels don't have a huge use for, which is token generation.
I see. I actually think, um, uh, her command cards are also very good. I think her command cards got a huge upgrade.
Which ones? I mean, No
So
Time for Sorrows has always been great.
has always been great,
Yeah.
right?
But
The
Barnbar's had kind of
bombardment with like how like you're always gonna be able to shoot things on turn one. Like
yeah,
there's no hiding the entire army anymore. Like that's just like not a thing.
right.
Um, and then Save Your Skins, her gun is so much better.
It is.
And being able to just like activate 2 units at the start of a turn and have the potential, like I don't think until this edition dropped, I never, ever, ever considered using that command card for its effect.
Yeah, I think the catch though is well, double tapping 2 units back to back is I think better than it was. It's still a 3 pip, so you still have to
It
give
is.
up. You're still probably going second anyway. Um, so you're essentially like, you know, in contrast to playing a 1 pip or something, you're basically just kind of shifting. You're shifting one of those 2 units from the start of the turn to the second activation, right? Whereas
Yeah,
if you just played a 1 pip, um, you would have a unit go immediately. Then your opponent would do a unit, and then you'd do a unit. So you're basically like giving up initiative to just go with 2 units in a row, but that will be 2 units that both go after your opponent goes with a unit. If that makes sense.
definitely. I don't know. I definitely have found that I don't know, it's better.
It's definitely better. I'm not sure it's good enough to like. I mean, Rebels have so many other command cards that are competing for attention.
That is
Apart
fair. I do
that
think like the fact that she has a second command slot is also a big deal.
that is very relevant.
Because you get to carry underworld connections, which is almost a requirement. And also take whatever else you want. So, whether that's like underworld plus improv or underworld plus whatever, there's a bunch of different options.
I will concede A tier. I'm not ready to do S with her simply because I think her versus Han is a conversation. They're two very different tools that you're bringing to Rebel list, but
yeah, the thing that puts it over the top for me is that Leia is cheap as all get out. She's what, 70 points?
75.
75? Yeah, 75 points. allows you to carry Underworld and Vigilance, which I think are pretty core to how Rebels work. I'm gonna put her in A tier. I think she's the best thing in A tier right now.
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
And then I'm gonna bump Han Solo up to the front because we're already talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, Han's gun is actually super good with the way new cover rules work. You're basically banking 3 to 4 kills every turn with Han.
Once. You get to do it once.
Okay, sure. Well, it depends on terrain because potentially you can use steady to not immediately die after you do that. But
Yeah.
I mean, look, when we played and I played Han survived the entire game. And most of my other units didn't.
I'm trying to
But
remember that game, but wasn't he stuck in melee?
on the last turn he was.
I think I wrapped him up with arcs, right?
No, you tagged him with Yoda on the very last turn.
Oh, that's what happened. Okay.
Yeah. But he was
Um,
yeah. But
yeah.
also
I
his
also didn't
his
know what I
command
was
cards.
doing the last time we played.
That's that's entirely fair. Yeah. The melee weakness is a problem for him because he wants to be close to things and he absolutely sucks in melee.
Yeah.
But it's also not just about his gun. I mean, his command cards are great. We already talked about change of plans. Reckless diversion is also great.
Is
Sorry
it
about the mess.
is reckless diversion great? I've found that I've tried to play it a couple times in the new edition, and I just like, where do you find the window to play that card?
Yeah, turn 3. I don't know.
Is it's kind of like that's the kind of card you want to play to like decide the initial gun engagement, right?
Yeah.
And which means to me it's like a turn 2 play, but oftentimes you're like too far away. Like they can bully the range bands often, and with house and more to the point, I think reckless diversion suffers immensely from how spread out the tables have gotten.
That's definitely true. I'll agree with that.
Because before it was like, okay, I'm in a reckless diversion and it covers my entire army is just like under reckless diversion cover.
Yep.
And now it's like that's just like it's kind of like Kenobi's Guardian, right? It's like you can only be in one place.
Yeah. It's gonna work well for that one place, but you're right. You can't just affect the entire fight necessarily
Right.
on one turn with it.
Yeah, like when I was abusing it was Jin at Cherokee last year. Like when I played Reckless Diversion, the only thing in my list you could shoot is Jin. Didn't matter where you were. It was just like you have to shoot Jin and she doesn't die. And you obviously that's like a like pretty abusive thing, but Reckless Diversion was good for making it so you can only shoot one target. And I don't think it does that anymore. I think it's significantly worse. I mean, it's still a good card, obviously.
It's still good at what it's always been good at, which is forcing your opponent to make awkward choices. And doing things like splitting up weapons, apart from their pools that have different range bands.
Yeah. Which matters less now. Like a lot less.
It does. Yeah, it matters a lot less, but it still matters. Yeah, I'd put him. I want to put him in A. If you want to like, excuse me.
I'm willing to have a peace treaty here and say that Han and Leia can sit in A together.
Okay.
If
you want to put him below Leia in A, fine, but I would like my objection to be noted for the record.
Okay, that's fair. If the man had disengaged,
yes,
I would give it to you all day long. Every time I played Han, I get into this awkward situation where I'm like, my units need to contest points. Han is like too expensive to not be contesting points. Also, Now he's in melee.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Yeah. Han does not like warm hugs.
no, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's his major weakness, which is it is what it is. I mean, if you're running him alongside like Ewoks or Chewie or something that can actually, punch, stab, whatever the thing that he's in melee with, then it helps a little bit. But you're right. He does get tied up in melee. If you're not shooting a lot, that's the reason, in my
Yes.
experience.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely like if Han Solo's unit card said you can never be stuck in melee, I would give you this argument 100% of the time.
Yeah. Or even if his brawl was not utter trash.
Oh, totally.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not convinced. I mean, that's like he's kind of like he's always been on the like needs a rework fence, and they've kind of been like throwing him bones, like every once in a while. Um, I definitely feel like yeah, his melee profile probably should be better. He's a scoundrel. I don't know.
Yeah, like how does Leia have 3 black dice in melee and Han has 3 white dice? Don't get me wrong, Leia's awesome, but like, are they really that different in terms of fisticuffs ability?
I mean, I don't know. Like yeah, I definitely think there could be something done there. I do think that like in general, like melee profiles on heroes probably
they're all
need
over the place.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Let's talk about Zelandro Calrissian.
man. If ever there was a unit crying out for "Please give me a new card tomorrow," it's Lando. Besides Callus, yeah, I think they have the same problem.
Um,
I think Lando's a little more useful than Callus,
yes.
uh, because his abilities and his cards actually do things that you want. But I think he's kind of in the same category as that if you're taking Lando, you still probably want a plan for contingencies. And that's still just really awkward to get your value out of.
I, yes, I do think for me, I agree completely. I do think that he's a little bit better on the combat side of things just because of infiltrates like big game.
It is a big deal. Uh,
Um,
Although his gun is worse than Callus's bow rifle.
it is
It's
for
not like
sure.
a lot worse because it has the native Pierce on there, but it is worse.
It's definitely worse. He does have sharp two, like which I don't know. It's basically the same, but uh, Lando's like always picking up a model, maybe two. Um, and you can do kind of like a nice like infiltrate, like move shoot, or infiltrate shoot move on turn one. I don't know.
I
Is it
do
good? Yeah.
I do think it's worth when we're comparing him to Callus. He is more expensive than Callus. He's 95
Yes,
points.
that's fair. I definitely would put him in probably C tier.
Yeah.
I think
Somewhere in you can put him either above or below Callus, but I think he's right around there.
yeah, and definitely not better than I don't think.
No.
Jin Urso.
Oh man, what to do with Jin? She's still really expensive. Uh, but Sharpshooter 1 is not as bad as Sharpshooter 1 is basically the same as Sharpshooter 2 now.
Is she really expensive? She's 90 points.
Mm. Okay, maybe not really expensive, but definitely expensive for what it feels like she should be doing.
I definitely am like I don't know. I actually think Jin might be significantly better. I haven't played her yet.
Being
But
basically invincible is, that's an over exaggeration, but her skill set has always been like she is ridiculously hard to kill for what you're paying.
mhm.
And that was really great on situations like Recover the Supplies, where you could make a single unit exceptionally relevant for purposes of the objective.
That's fair.
And I think that's a little better now because just having a unit on a point that you just cannot kill unless you over allocate resources to it, I think is pretty useful.
I think so too. I also think her one pip is like way more relevant.
Yeah,
Before it
you're
was kind of like maybe this will do something, but now I kind of feel like it's like it's pretty good.
you're gonna pretty much always get to do something with it.
Yeah. Um, Infiltrate also, I think, definitely better in the new edition. Um, I don't know. I think she's definitely better than Lando for sure.
Yeah, I'd say she's a whole tier better than Lando. I'd put her in B.
Yeah, I agree. I would probably not better than Veers. Is she like making the Kenobi Palpatine section of B or
Yeah, I think so.
okay?
But unlike other units kind of in that tier, like the officer, uh sorry, the Imperial officer, there's not a clear like you should just take this other thing instead because her price point and her role are unique enough that if you're taking Jin, you have a plan to actually use Jin to do the thing that she wants to do.
Yeah, and I will say she has a perk that we haven't talked about, and this is specifically relevant to Rebels because they don't have a lot of this. Um, it's pretty much her and Commander Luke if you want a courage bubble that's greater than 2.
Yes, which is extremely relevant now that you can just kind of, if you've got a 2 courage bubble, then that means your units are not scoring when they get to force suppression, which
Yeah,
is going to be a problem in a lot of situations.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty relevant.
So I definitely think it's and the fact that she also has suppressive on her melee um profile kind of allows her to do the reverse to other people sometimes. Handing out suppression in melee is not something you often get to do. Um,
Yeah, although getting it up to a relevant number with if she's engaged with in melee with something, then she's probably the only one adding suppression to that unit.
yeah, it's more like,
But
they like single moved into the zone this turn because they were already suppressed in the
sure, yeah,
situation,
right.
and like Jin gives you an option to potentially, yeah. Um,
Yep.
all right, last Rebel hero. This is not going to go well.
Cassian.
Cassian Andor.
Man, another talking about units that their sniper rifle is significantly changed in value. Uh, I mean,
Is there a garbage dump truck dumpster fire tier that we could put this guy in?
we haven't put anything in D tier yet. I think Cassian is the man. What a fall from being like extremely awesome and central to what Rebels want to be doing to something that's just like, man,
He was
like
basically the faction, like
yeah,
for a while,
yeah. Rebels had a whole identity around like, all right, let's just we're the long range Pierce faction. That's what we
yeah.
do. Um, yeah, and his cards too. His cards are like really designed to kind of give that little extra boost to a Rebel Hero Hammer type list. But that's just kind of what they do. They give you a little extra boost. Like they're not
Well,
splashy.
yeah, and I think Last Stand is like, man, if they put some wounds into your heroes, they're probably dead.
Yes.
Um,
There's not a very big window. Like there used to be a window where it's like, oh, I took 3 to 4 wounds on this hero. Now I'm going to play Last Stand on him. This is not as much of a thing anymore.
yeah, they're shooting at you with 200 points more stuff.
Yeah.
Like it just yeah. Um, and then yeah, 3 pip. It's a setup card, right?
Yes.
Um,
He's like the hero hammer version of a character that has a lot of setup cards.
yeah, and the recover is way less relevant
Yes.
because it used to be like I'm gonna recover all my force abilities on like Commander Luke, but now you're not taking tappable force abilities on him because he doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm putting them in garbage tier.
Yeah. D tier. I agree.
Uh,
All right. Well, that was all the Empire and Rebel commanders.
yeah, it's about how long we thought it would take.
Yeah. Yeah. The B tier is looking pretty crowded. So maybe that's a good thing. And we have a lot of stuff where it's like, yeah, that's
Yeah, I would say like the things in B tier, I would everything below B tier, I think actually needs to be like looked at again.
yeah. Because you're never making it down to C, realistically.
No, no. Yeah, I mean,
Like every
um,
every every faction has some good choices at the top here.
yeah, I think Rebels are like in a little bit more of an awkward spot with like they don't have a Darth Vader, you know?
Yeah.
Like there is no like don't get me wrong, Han and Leia are fine. Um as far as like they're good commanders, they're A tier commanders, but there is no Vader, there is no Anakin in Rebels. Like that
Yep.
unit does not exist.
Yeah.
Um
And maybe if and when Jedi Luke gets a rework, that conversation changes. But I don't know. He's also not a commander, so
yeah, no, give me Admiral Akbar. Uh
hey, give me Saw Gerrera. That's somebody that I've been wanting
there
to
we
see
go.
for a while.
Yeah. Cal Kestis. Um
Yeah, right. Although he wouldn't be a commander, he'd be an operative.
Probably. I don't know. I haven't finished the latest game. I'm stuck on that stupid orbital platform.
I haven't finished it either. I forget where I'm stuck, but something I got to go back to at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those games that like I put it down for like a year and then I went to pick it back up and I was like, I don't remember anything. I almost have to restart this entire game and I'm not sure I want to put that
That's
much time into it.
that's the struggle with those, right?
Yeah.
Is I think I dropped it for I think Baldur's Gate 3 came out and I was like, well, obviously I have to take a break to play this. And then, since that takes like 100 hours, by the time I was done with that, I'm like, all right, let's go back to nah.
Yeah.
So
And the worst part is you like forget all the move sets and
right,
like you're
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
oh man, everything's kicking the crap out of me and like
Yeah. Just mashing buttons on the controller. It's like, what? I don't remember what this does. Can I do
yeah.
the tutorial again?
Yeah. It's like, no, you're on the hardest boss ever.
Right. Yeah.
Good luck.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it is what it is. Maybe I'll go back to it in my stretch of computer game listlessness here, but
I
we'll see.
don't know. I'm down a pretty deep rabbit hole at the moment. So
Yeah. We won't talk about it, but yeah, I'm afraid to do what you're doing because I don't have time. And
I
I
don't
know
either,
I
to be
know
honest with you.
all right. Um well, we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Mike.
Stay fresh, cheesebacks.